Hello and welcome back to an introduction here at CG Weasel. Are you up for a quickie? Because what I have for you is a little script I wrote. CGW Quickies. Now all the script is doing is applying expressions to certain properties. The expressions are very common and I think everybody might know them. So we have a bounce expression, we have a elastic expression, and we have the very famous wiggly expression. But they come with a little bit extra. Now let's hop right in so I can show you what it actually does. So let's start right here. What we have is a basketball going from top to bottom, and it has two keyframes with an exponential ease on it. So now what we're gonna do is we click on the Y position right here and we click on bounce. And right away what we get is a new effect up here where you have some stuff like bounciness, gravity and max bounces. Now let's view the default, bum bum bum, and we already got a very convincing basketball. Now to the options for bounce. Of course the bounciness is how bouncy the ball is. The lower the bounciness, the less bounces you will get. Bump. Looks pretty heavy right now. Everything above 1 is actually increasing the height of the bounce the ball is gonna do. You know, it's every time a little bit more. So if you want some realistic bounciness, keep it under 1. Then of course we have the gravity, which is 9.81 is here on Earth. And if you want to bounce it on the moon, then you might want to adjust the gravity to 1.62 and with the bounciness, because otherwise he's gonna go away. So boom, boom, that would be more of a moon-like bounce right there. Yeah, it's gonna take some while. There you go. And the max bounces are there for performance purposes. So right now we got a max bounce of 8, so he's gonna bounce 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then he's gonna stop. We're not seeing this, but if you don't put anything like that in there, then he's gonna calculate the bounces forever and ever. And even though they're so small that you're not even gonna see him anymore. So just to show you, if you put this down to 3, then he's gonna go 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So just in case you're gonna do anything and you need more than 8 bounces, which is a default, then make sure you increase this so it doesn't look like it's getting capped off. Okay, moving on to the next one. We have a sign here, again with 2 keyframes, and it's just going down there. It's got an ease on it, special curve. Let's see how the curve looks. That's the curve. Okay, and same thing here. We just click on the rotation and we hit elastic. Bomb. And if we view this now, then boom, we have a swinging sign. And we can of course adjust this. If you want to see the actual expression here in the curve editor, then you might want to scroll this down and hit this graph editor thingy right there. And then you actually see the graph. And now we can adjust the elastic values for the sign. This is a bit harsh and more of rubbery like than a swinging sign. So let's decrease the decay to like 2. Okay, and the frequency maybe to 5. 1, 1, 1. Oh, nope. The frequency to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's better. So you have to play with this a little bit to get the right thing you want. And then we have a stop after in seconds. Again, this is for performance purposes because he will calculate it forever, even if you're not gonna see this. So after your last keyframe here, which is this one here, add 3 seconds and then he's gonna stop calculating it. So that would be right here at 4 and then he's gonna stop. So if I put this to like 1, then you see bomb, 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 and bomb. It's 2 second mark. So 1 second after my last keyframe, he's gonna stop. So keep this in mind again, if anything looks capped off. Okay, so this is this so far. Let's go to the next one. We have a smiley here and we want to animate his pupils so he looks a bit like he's going crazy and stuff. So what we do is we select both of those and we want the positions, and then we just hit wiggle. And right away they're wiggling. Now let's get through the options. So we got a wiggle up here, which is called wiggle transform position. Why the transform is in there, I'm gonna show you in a second. At the very top we have equal wiggle, which is using X. So if it's a 2D layer, then he's gonna use X and Y with the same values provided here by X. And if it's a 3D layer, then he's gonna use those values for the X, Y, and Z dimensions. Now let's use the right pupil, that's because it's easier to see. So we uncheck this, and then all we get right now is a X wiggle. If you want a Y wiggle, then you need to put in an amount. So let's put in 50, and then we have a Y wiggle again. So we can wiggle faster on the Y than on the X. So this is totally individual. Now let's turn the equal wiggle on again. And let's go into the advanced. You have this as advanced options on every axis if you want to separate them. We have here, first of all, octaves. Right now we have a very simple wiggle, but if you want to give it some more details, you can put in some octaves, like 2 or 3, and then you see he's gonna get some more steps in between. It's kind of like the noise. And you also can dial in the intensity of those octaves. So if we go in again and we just say this is 1, then you have like really noisy stuff. And if you put this to like 0.1, then it's not as obvious. So this is very nice to give your wiggle some kind of detail and more of a unique wiggle than just a standard one. And then right down here under extras, you have some more options, which is integrated into the wiggle. So I actually put it in there. Time stretch is you can speed your wiggle up globally and slow it down. Of course you can animate it, but this is kind of awkward to animate. Then we have, of course, a random seed. And this is good because you can change the random seed for every layer you have the wiggle on, even though they all have a different seed. So none of those layers you're ever gonna put a wiggle on are gonna have the same seed. At least the chances are very low. Then we have hold frames. This is more of a, if you want to do some toon animations or stuff like that, then you can turn on hold frames, and the wiggle is going more in steps. So down here you have frames per second. So if you put this to like 10, then you see you get this kind of a jitter going on. Could be a nice effect, and I do see some purposes for that. But right now, if you wanna adjust a wiggle like in speed, then you have to adjust them for both of them because the effect is on both layers. But sometimes you actually don't want to separate it that much, and you just want one global wiggle controller for a bunch of layers. So let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of that and the expressions. So now let's select our 2 positions of those 2 layers, and now this is where the single controller comes in. So we check this, and now we click on wiggle. What we get is a null called controller quickies, and on this null we get a single wiggle effect. And now this wiggle effect controls those 2 selected layers. And now we can just simply adjust everything with 1 click. So now they only have 3, and we want them faster like that, and they're all synchronized. But they're not doing the same thing, because even though they're controlled by one layer, they do have individual seeds. So you're not getting the same behavior for all of your layers, which I think is very important. If you want them together, moving at the same way or having the same wiggle, then just parent them to a null and wiggle the null. And this doesn't really matter how many of layers you use. It doesn't even matter if you use a position and a, let's say, a rotation, or let's, in this case, maybe a scale. So we click position and scale, single controller, hit wiggle, and then you have the one on the scale and the other one on position. And as you can see, and they're still only driven by this one single wiggle. But that's not really all of it so far. So let's get over here to another composition, which is called a lot. So we do have a lot of shape layers here, and let's select them all. Now what comes in really handy with such a large amount of layers, and if you're using only transform options, is the quick mode. So if we turn on single controller, because I only want one wiggle controller for all of those layers, and I want the quick mode because I don't want to go through and hit P and select them all. So just select them, hit quick mode, click, choose your transformation option, and there's like position, and then we hit wiggle. And then it takes a second and they're all wiggled. We're done. They're all wiggling. We have one single controller which is adjusting the whole thing. We can like wiggle them only on X and get some nice stuff going on here. So that was nice and quick and easy. So you can do this for bounce and elastic, and you can use the quick mode for all the transformation options. The only thing you have to consider is orientation is only on 3D layers. For the rotation, you have rotation 2D, and for the 3D layer rotation, you have X, Y, and Z separated. So the quick mode for a lot of layers, putting very quickly some wiggle or anything else on it. Now let's hop over to the no matter what. And one thing I already forgot to explain to you really quick. Let's get in here, let's get to the opacity and wiggle the opacity just like that. Single controller and quick mode is off. And now we have on our shape layer a wiggle transform opacity. This is because the opacity is from our layer transformation. And I just want to make sure that there is no confusion going on if you do anything else. Like if you get into our fill and then you have an opacity here and you want to wiggle that too. If you have now wiggled them both and then you only have wiggle opacity, you don't know which one is which. So if I wiggle this opacity, then I get wiggle fill 1 opacity. So you always know what the wiggle, the bounce or whatever is actually referring to. That's why the parent is always included. So that really quick. Now let's hop over here. Cameras and lights are kind of special because they cannot take effects. So if you have single controller off and you wanna wiggle something here, then what the script is gonna do is it's automatically creating a null with the effect on it, but referring it to your light. The null is gonna be called Quickies point light 1. So it's taking the name of the light here, so you know what it is, but the null is always above the layer you're used to. Let's undo that and let's see. So what you can do, and this is what I thought is really convenient. Let's get in here. We have the free plugin from Andrew Kramer here, Saber. So let's open this up, and then we have the golden blur here. Let's open this up so we get all the options. So if I click rotation here and the blurriness here and the glow and bias, and I wanna wiggle all of that. I'm gonna be the mighty wiggler here. And even let's go in here for the camera options, and I want to wiggle the zoom. So I got a bunch of different stuff going on here, and no single controller, just like that. And I hit wiggle, and he's going through, and he's gonna put a wiggle on all of this, just like that. And this, you got on your layer, you got your effects, and then you got your wiggles right here. You can move those to the top if you want to. And you got a wiggle saver glow intensity, a wiggle saver glow bias, and a wiggle Gaussian blurriness, and a wiggle transform rotation. So he's gonna do all of that. And it doesn't matter how many options or properties or which properties you use, it's just one single click. So if I undo that and if I use a single controller, then all you get is a single controller, and it's gonna wiggle all of this right there, all the way down, and it's all responding to the same wiggle. So this is my little script. It really helps me out a lot. And if you have any suggestions on how it could be better and what options you would like to see to be included, feel free to leave a comment down below. The link to Gumroad, where you can download the script, is down in the description. And anyway, please like this video, it helps a lot. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so for more scripts, presets and tutorials. And I hope I see you soon. Bye bye.